Well, hello, all our Forever friends from across the globe. We're back with the Powered by Forever podcast. Greg Mullins here with us. Good to have you with us, Greg. I missed you
Excellent.
last time.
I know. Sorry about that.
Oh, no, it wasn't the same.
This one's going to be a good one.
Yeah, because we have with us the number one FBO in the Forever universe.
Universe.
The universe, you like that one? Hanami Takagi from FOP Japan. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So we've been looking forward to this podcast, and we're not in Japan.
Nope.
Where are we?
Not yet.
Yeah, almost.
Where are we, Honami? Where are we today?
Amsterdam.
Amsterdam.
Did you have to think about it?
Yeah.
Where are we? Yes, that's right. It's a very special King's Day celebration today in downtown Amsterdam. In fact, we've just finished a couple days of our GLT training, and we thought we'd grab a quick few minutes with Hanami and find out a little bit more about you, about your Forever experience, and maybe a little bit about life before Forever and what the plans are for the future. And so excited to hear more about you. But before we go, episode 10.
10.
We have to do what we do, a toast.
Toast?
Kanpai.
Kanpai.
Yeah, every it's become a tradition. Today is brought to you by Forever Aloe Vera Gel in our 330s.
Yes, sir.
So let's have a quick kanpai.
Kanpai.
Hold on. Kanpai.
Kanpai. Kanpai. Kanpai. Perfection.
Hanami.
Yes.
You're enjoying Amsterdam?
Yeah.
Your first time?
Second time.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you came to visit the Forever Direct.
Yeah.
Which we were there yesterday.
Yeah.
What did you think of Forever Direct?
Yeah, wonderful. So many people are smiling.
Happy face?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a big place, huh?
Yeah.
A lot of product.
でもすごい整頓されてて綺麗な場所でした。
Would you want to work there?
Yeah? いやでも
No, she's busy, man. We need her on the other side. Forever Drex, if you don't know, Forever Drex, a facility we have here in just outside of Amsterdam, about an hour outside. And it's a main central warehouse for us. And we do direct fulfillment to, I think, 5 countries.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, Western Europe's directly fulfilled out of here, and they do all bulk shipping to Africa, Middle East, and the rest of Europe. So we went to visit that facility, and that's what we're talking about. It's a fantastic, modern, like you said, clean.
Yeah.
It's an amazing facility. And
Would they say 50 million units a year they send out of there?
Yeah.
Yeah. 50
crazy,
million
I know.
units.
Amazing.
Busy place.
And we took all of the leaders yesterday. Were your Japanese downline with you? Were they pretty excited?
Yeah. 2 lines.
Yeah. What were they
Yeah.
saying about FD?
でも同じことを言ってて、みんなすごく楽しそうに仕事をしているのと、多国籍のいろんな国から人が来ているのが本当にすごいことだねって言ってましたし、何よりソーシャルワーカーの人たちが楽しそうにお仕事されてる、その方たちに居場所を与えてるっていうことにすごい感動してました。
Yeah, it's amazing.
They're great people, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have the chance to go there once or twice a year, and it's always a real highlight for us. And it really is part of the culture Forever, but it's also, I think it's a great, like you said, a representation. You got the diversity, you've got the cleanliness, you've got the modernness, you've got the commitment to excellence. It kind of incorporates what Forever is about. Tell us a little bit about your story. How did you get involved in Forever?
会社員の時に不動産の商業のマネジメントをしてたんですね。ショッピングセンターのマネジメント。ですごく大きな会社だったし、私は多分エリートだったと思うんですよ。だけど、後輩が4人いて、そのうちの2人が私が会社員を3年やっていた後に亡くなってしまったんですね。で、その時に本当に人の幸せっていうのは何なんだろうって真剣に考え始めました。
Wow, that's
Very powerful.
yeah. And it kind of changed the direction of your life.
Yeah.
So then what did you do?
で、その後に紹介者の女性と出会うんですけど、それもすごく偶然人からの紹介であなたに会うと思うよって言って紹介されたのがスポンサーの悦子さんですね。で、彼女を一目見た時に、16歳も年上なので一回り以上年上なんですけど、すごく幸せそうに見えた。でもその時まで私は大きい優秀な大学に行って大手の企業に行って成功者って呼ばれる人にもたくさん会ってたんですね。 だけど、心から幸せそうな人には全然出会えなかった。
うん
でもその中で悦子さんは、私は普通の主婦ですって自己紹介されたんですけど、すごく幸せそうだったの。それですごく興味を持ったんですね、彼女に。で、
うん
聞いたんですけど、ネットワークビジネスに関わってるっていうのがすぐ分かって、私はそれが好きじゃなかったので、会ってすぐ離れて、それから1年ぐらい会わなかった。でも、その間に、当時のソーシャルメディアの Facebook でつながっていて、彼女の周りにいる人たちが本当に幸せそうに見えて、ずっと興味を持っていたんですね。彼女のコミュニティに。そしたら偶然、大阪のフォーエバーのサロンの地下街で、1年後ぐらいにばったり再会するんです。で、自分から聞き出して、フォーエバーを知ることになるんで、改めて知ることになりました。
I don't think that was by chance. I think that was destined
Yeah.
that you met
Mhm.
her again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
うん。
And what turned you off at first about network marketing?
20代の時に10社以上に誘われてたんですね、ネットワークに入らないかって。
10.
Wow.
以上、over 10
Wow.
companies。でもみんな目が円になってた。なので絶対関わりたくなかったんですよね。お金を目的にするんじゃなくて、人を本当に幸せにしたいと思いながら生きてたので、こう誰かが近づいてきた時に、私が参加することで儲かるって思ってる人の空気を察知して逃げてました。
Mm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I like that expression. I saw yen in their eyes. That's a good expression. So community was a big part of it. The sort of it goes to show the importance of being an authentic sponsor.
Yeah, and I was also going to say that how many people out in the world today think the same thing Honami thought about our
Yeah, yeah.
industry? I mean,
For sure.
majority,
For
right?
sure. Yeah.
But yet something changed when she saw Forever, and here she is now, the number one FBO of a network marketing company in the world. I think that goes to show never give up on
Yeah.
that majority of the people out
Yeah,
there, because they can change their mind. I think that's incredible thing
Definitely.
to think about,
Mhm.
you know?
And that's a great point. So it was the happiness in your sponsor that sort of attracted you, and then you joined the business right after that.
Yes.
And that was how long ago? 9 years, 10 years ago?
11 years ago.
11 years.
Yeah.
In 11 years, you went from joining to number one in the world.
Yeah.
No, it is in 8 years, or sorry, it would be
Yeah.
9 years, because this is their second year, right?
3 years ago?
3
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Dude, don't short her out on that.
My numbers are off. That's an amazing story. So the biggest questions they're going to ask, and they're going to be interested, is how did you do it? What is it you do? What made you go from 0 to number one? What does that journey look like? What were you doing? What are you doing?
すごくシンプルで、とにかく自分にできること、目の前の人にとって自分ができることは何だろうっていうのを常に考えて行動してただけだと思いますね。で、とにかくフォーエバーがすごいのが、先輩たちがたくさんいるのがすごいと思うんですよ。なので、その方たちが教えてくださることをただ素直に行動をしてきたっていうのが一番大きいと思ってます。
And what was that?
Simple.
Simple. This
I
business
love
is
it.
simple.
Yeah.
Keep it simple.
Yeah.
And what are those things? What are the simple things?
The power of forever is the power of love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
これが一番大事だ。
And how did you build such a big community though? Because you can only speak to one person at a time. How did you do it? What skills, what tools did you use to build that?
ソーシャルメディア。
Yeah.
Yeah. 2014年にフォーエバーのビジネスに参加をして、2018年に初めてグローバルラリーに参加したんですよね。そこから、とにかく GLT に入りたいってすごく思ったんです。なんでかって言ったら GLT の人たちのエネルギーが凄まじいからですね。で、そこから自分に何ができるだろうと思った時に、今英語で喋れてないですけど、日本語で喋るのはすごい得意なんですよ。もうめちゃくちゃ喋れるんですけど、それをじゃあ一番活かせるソーシャルメディアってなんだろうと思った時に、その当時 YouTube だったんですよね。そうだからめちゃくちゃ大事なのは、SNS が流行ってるからやるんじゃなくて、自分の特技を活かせるのが何なのかっていうのを見極めるのが一番大事だと思ってるんですよ。私の場合は YouTube だったってだけですね。で、そこから、その当時コロナ禍になって、みんな オフラインで活動するようになったんですよ。その時期に。だから私は誰よりも早くオフラインでお伝え活動をしてグループを教育するっていうことを身につけられた一人だと思ってます。だから時代を読むというか、流行を読む力ってすごい大事ですよね。なので、ズームミーティングをとにかくたくさんやって、あと仕組みを作ったんですよね。で、私はすごく喋るので、なんていうかな、こう、人前に出るのがもともと得意って思われるかもしれないんですけど、もともとネクラでオタクなんですよ。なので、動画を撮って仕組みを構築する、ウェブサイトをタグ打ちで作れてたんですね、昔。小学生の時に。なので、その動画、自分で撮った動画を会員サイトを作って、そこに格納して教育をするっていうプログラムを作ることもできた。なので、新しい人が来て、教育をされて、で、オフライン、オンラインで教育をしていくっていうその仕組みができたっていうのが一番、GLT になる前、だから2022、2020年に初めて GLT になったんですけど、その時期に初めてそういうことをやり始めて、数字がどんどんどんどん伸びていったっていうのはありますね。
So when you say you, which is an incredible story because we've all seen the success of it, but when you say you shared the message on social media, what were you saying? What was your message? What story were you telling?
About subconscious mind
Uh huh.
and my lifestyle and my philosophy. Yeah, only
And what
this.
is that?
This is very simple. さっき言ったような人を大切にするとか、人に挨拶するとか、すごい簡単なことですよね。でもそれをほとんどの人ができてない。人を丁寧に扱うとか、そういう人として生きる上で当たり前のことをずっと発信してきてる。
And you would teach that in classes online about mental health, strength.
まず、人生をより良くするための方法を YouTube で話してるんですね。いつも話してるのが幸せの三角形の話。幸せになるためには、まず一番下の土台が心と体の健康。
Mm-hmm.
で、その次に関係性リレーションシップ。で、最後にお金だったり自分の成功。それらを大事な順番通りに得ていくことが人の本当の幸せを作っていくことなんだよってことをまず前提に話をしてる。そのために一個の素晴らしいツールとしてフォーエバーがある。で、関わる人を変えること。いい人たちと付き合うことで、いい人にも自分がなれるっていうところですね。で、その後に自分を高めること、の役に立つことで経済が得られるっていうこと。で、これが精神科医の人がその順番で得るのが大事って言ってるんですよ。それが得られるのがフォーエバーなんですよ。
The match, the
いや、
match.
そう。なので、ウェビナーでちゃんとそれらを得るために大切なことを説明をまずしますと。で、フォーエバーっていう会社が、例えば、あんなに大きなフォーエバーダイレクトがまず無借金経営なわけですよ。めちゃくちゃ広大なドミニカのアロエ畑も無借金経営なわけですよ。もうありえないですよね。だから、それをまず話をしたら、ほとんどの人が、私がこの興奮で喋るので、その興奮に巻き込まれてどんどん参加してくるんですよね。そう。で、みんな、今までのネットワークビジネスと違うなって決定的に思うのは、このフォーエバーのコミュニティに入ってきたら、一人一人の皆さんが、まずフォーエバーのジャパンの平均年齢は6、70代なわけですよ。私のおばあちゃんじゃん。でも、それにみんな安心感を持って感動して、3、40年継続されている方たちが、本当に健康的で肌がツヤツヤしてる。そこに感動して、みんなもコミットしてくるんですよね、フォーエバーに。そんな環境はもう日本の他にどこにもないですよ。なので、たくさんの人が参加してフォーエバーにコミットしてきてます。
And I've started to notice more young people coming up through, or not young as in like too young, but younger people than the grandmothers you talked about. And how do you keep the discipline in your team with all these people coming in and the new and yet it seems, how do you control all of that?
もうだっていい人しか集まらないですもんね。いい人だから
No,
です
but
かね。
okay, I know they're nice people, of course they are, but
Yeah.
work ethic and discipline and working every day and how do you lead them? How do you guide them? How do you show them that? And because I'm thinking about the person that's watching this
うん。
and they're thinking, I want to build a business like
う
yours.
んうん。
What are we going to tell them?
高いビジョンですね。高いビジョンっていうのは、何もたくさんお金を稼ぐとか、たくさんケースを増やすとか、そこじゃないんですよね。崇高っていう意味で高いビジョンです。それはやっぱりレックスマンとかが大切にしてる、フォーエバーは愛の力だっていうような、そういう世界を作りたいっていう高いビジョン。で、全ての人間に絶対崇高な心があると思ってるんですよ。で、そこが開くと人の可能性が開くと思ってるんですね。なので、常にそのビジョンを語ってたら、 やっぱりそこに共鳴する人が集まるから、やっぱいい人たちが集まるし、勝手に亀裂ができてる、いくってすごく思ってます。
Yeah. It's about setting a good example, right? Asking the right questions, set a good example.
And
Excellent.
care.
Yeah, the power of forever is the
She
power of love. right?
truly cares about
Yeah.
others.
And having that amazing why. Like you said, I want to change the world, you know. It's powerful. So what's the future look like?
ありがたい豊かな生活を送らせていただいてるってすごく思ってます、まず。だし、素晴らしい人たちが集まってきてて、どんどんグループが拡大していってる状況が今ある。だから関わる縁ある人が、とにかく幸せに彼らの目標が叶えばいいなっていうのが、今の私のすごく夢というか、まあ自分自身の夢じゃないですね、結局。でも、それがすごくやっぱ出てくる。で、それが世界中に広がっていったらいいなってすごく思う。まあでもそれが自分の夢であり、自分自身の夢であり、自分のダウンラインとかビジネスにとっての夢、全部一緒ですね、だから。
What do you see Forever Japan going?
拡大しかないですよ。
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, we're seeing it now. We're seeing the growth now. It's amazing.
Yeah. I'm so happy. 12年前に始めた時は、もう、6、70代の人しか周りにいなかったからどうなるんだろうってすごい心配でした。でも今すごいたくさんの人たちが増えて、数字がどんどん伸びていってるから本当に嬉しいですね。
Absolutely. We see that in Japan and we see that in a lot of places, but your energy and your passion and your belief certainly accelerates that, you know, and we've seen the change in FOPJ ourselves, you know,
Absolutely.
and it's been wonderful to see that.
It's not just old people. It's a lot of young people now.
Yeah.
A lot
Yeah.
of young people.
Yeah.
It's great.
What about building? You said building your business around the world. Is that part of your plan?
Yes.
Yeah, and I can see you've been working on your English, and that's amazing. That'll be helping you. But I'm sure there's lots of Japanese people around the world as well that you can help and build.
Yeah.
We've seen your impact not just in FOPJ, in you know the energy that you brought into the global leadership team, and we're deeply grateful for that. You know, if you had a wish or a hope that Forever could give, you know, provide to you, what would that be? What could Forever do to enable you to change the world? What would you want us to do for you?
もうそのままでいいです。
Stay as it is.
もう十分ですよね。だって、もう一回言いますけど、無借金経営でこれだけたくさんの人が世界中から関わってて、みんな笑顔で仕事してて、ドミニカもフォーエバーダイレクトも、もう全部みんな笑顔じゃないですか。もうこんな世界とか他の会社、そんな会社絶対ないですよね。もうだからそのままで言ってください、本当。頼みます、それは。
But we are going to change because we need more Forever Directs. We need more fields filled with
Wow.
aloe. You know, that's what our job is. We have to plan and strategize to build that for the future, and that's what we're doing every day. The
Constantly.
investments, technology. You know, there's so
Mm.
many things that we're working on constantly.
Mhm.
Well, oh, go on.
それだったら、今日の午前中の話にもあったんですけど、一人一人の FBO のストーリーが知りたいんですよね。でもそれって、やっぱり、この状態も今まさにそうだと思うんですけど、でも、やっぱその人一人一人が、例えばくじが手押し車で押しながらアロエを売ってたとかすごいストーリーじゃないですか。こういう具体的な苦労から這い上がったストーリーを無限に聞きたいから、それを SNS とかで発信してほしいなってすごく思う。
We do the stories of Forever, and you're right though, is that more and more we're recognizing and realizing the power of just the authentic story. This was my experience. This is how or whatever the person's Kuchi, for example. And we're definitely going to be doing more and more of that as we continue to build around the world. So how many hours a week do you work?
24 hours.
That's a day or a week?
A day?
A day.
A day. Yeah.
No sleep?
Yeah.
She's working in her sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Constantly. I
Yeah.
do know that, and I told Greg this when we were in the Dominican Republic,
Yeah.
and I woke up early to go down to the beach to swim.
Yeah.
They were working. It was 6 o'clock in the morning. They were all dressed for work and they were all started early. So 24 hours a day. Give me 3 words that describe Forever.
正直さ。
Yeah, I like that.
エネルギー、エナジー。
Energy,
パッション。
passion,
Yeah.
energy, honesty.
Yeah.
I can see
like it.
that. I can see that. That works. Any last thoughts, mate?
Wow, I think we got a lot.
Yeah.
I learned a lot today, and I know you're well known around the forever world, and everybody is very excited to have you come into forever and re-energize. And bigger than that is to think bigger and
Yes, yeah.
see the bigger
Mhm.
picture, and that's what you've helped me, at least personally. So, arigato gozaimasu.
ありがとうございます。
It's like Dana said today, one of your downline, when he said, "What's your goal?" 10 times.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about, this is where we got to be, this is where people fall out with our industry. We're not talking about money. Like you said, money turned you off. It wasn't yen signs, it's this idea that you can positively impact people. And that community of Forever was so passionate about
Yeah.
is, I think, and that's what you brought in, that's what you recognized. And I think that's what you're saying.
Absolutely.
It isn't all about, money and driving this thing forward. It's about helping people feel better, look better, and have
Be
a
their
better,
best.
be the best version of themselves, right? So from you can't hear it maybe, but we can hear the partying outside from a King's Day in the very, very beautiful part of the world in Amsterdam on a beautiful Saturday afternoon. We've got to meet one of the most special people, not only in Forever, but that we've met in the world. A lady that is filled with energy, of optimism and passion. A lady that decided when she was younger that she wanted to change the world. And I think for the thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of people in her business, she is truly doing that. What a pleasure, a privilege it's been for Greg and I to be with Hanami. This won't be the last time. In fact, we'll be with you in June celebrating the Japanese success.
Yeah.
And thank you. Arigato gozaimasu.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All the best. Come by.